Hey.
Alright, so I've been wanting to talk about the Toronto Raptors for quite some time now, but I did want to catch one more game live just to really get a feel about how I feel about this team. And I thought, what better game to watch than Pascal Siakam's return to the lineup, his season debut against the high-powered Brooklyn Nets offense. And I say that because obviously the Raptors have made headlines this season so far. They've had some interesting lineups that have led to a pretty solid record so far in the season. I think it's safe to say that they're overproducing on a lot of people's expectations for them so far. And obviously that great start was without their star player Pascal Siakam, but he's back. They're a good defensive team. They're up against one of the better offenses in the league with the Nets, and overall it was a great game. I liked what I saw from both squads. The game was a lot closer than the score actually foretold at the end, but I think that was mostly because the Nets finally looked like the Nets for the first time in a while. It's been one of the rare games so far this season where they've actually been making shots, not making a lot of mistakes, and overall just playing some clean basketball. And it's good that they were able to do that, because if they hadn't, this would have easily been another win for the Raptors. Because don't get me wrong, the Nets were able to score the ball, but again, that was because the Nets are the Nets and they have some of the best offensive scorers in NBA history. It was in no part due to a lack of effort or just lack of positive play from this Raptors defense. They made life very, very, very difficult on all of KD, Harden, and the rest of the Nets team. But I think my ultimate takeaway from just this game and the Raptors season in general is that NBA players must absolutely hate waking up to see that they have the Raptors ahead on their schedule. I just know nobody's having fun playing against these guys. And that's because Masai Ujiri and the Raptors seem to want to try and break the NBA by just playing as many having as many just long athletic wings on one roster as possible. They had Fred VanVleet, who's a guard. I pretty much feel pretty safe calling him a guard. You have Gary Trent Jr., who I think is technically listed as a guard, but he's got some wing tendencies. He's got a nice long wingspan. And then from there, they rounded out the starters with Pascal Siakam, who was playing the 5, Scotty Barnes, and OG Anunoby. And if that's not enough wingspan for you, off the bench they had Precious Achiuwa, they had Svi Mykhailiuk, Chris Boucher, Delano Banton. Normally they'd also have Khem Birch, but he was out today for some rest. So if you look at this roster, you could go 10 deep and only have a few guards, a bunch of wings, center. I mean, not really a true center. Khem Birch is the closest thing to that. And again, they're able to just put so much size and wingspan on the court that they can switch everything on defense. They rotate well. Nick Nurse just has really good systems in place. He's a really good defensive head coach. And it's so easy to tell that it is just effortless for them out there playing defense. They like to get steals, poke balls. They have a bunch of players in the top, whatever in deflections per game so far. And it's noticeable because, again, this defense just loves to get out and running, get in transition, and get easy buckets, because obviously the next point I'm going to be getting to is that this team still struggles in the offensive, especially half-court game. I feel like the default game plan for this Raptors offense is that they have Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. in the backcourt, and these are two guys who are not afraid at all to take a shot from anywhere inside the half-court offense. So those two clearly have the green light to just try and get up as many shots as possible. So far, they're both playing pretty effectively. They have some pretty good percentages, although Gary Trent's a bit on the lower side, but that's Gary Trent, that's what he does. But outside of the guards putting up shots, we've seen OG Anunoby also take an increased number of shot attempts as he tries to expand his offensive game, and I'll admit it hasn't been the prettiest thing so far, but again, super encouraging that he's taking these step backs, he's driving to the rim, he's shooting off the dribble, he's looking to make his own shot, which is going to be huge for this Raptors team heading into the future. And while talking about offense, it has to be mentioned that Scotty Barnes averaging over 16 points per game across his first 9 appearances is just absurd. I don't think anyone saw this coming at all. Scotty Barnes just scoring effortlessly in the NBA after not being a great scorer in college or just anywhere else that he played before getting to the league. And while I definitely expect some regression, especially now that Pascal Siakam is back in the lineup, Scotty Barnes still plays a very vital role to this offense. Especially after the loss of Kyle Lowry, there's a huge playmaking gap on this roster, which I think a bunch of people highlighted over this offseason, and that was their number one concern about Kyle Lowry leaving this team, is that they were nervous about who would step up and be that play initiator, the playmaker, the on-court coach, all that good stuff. Because while Fred VanVleet has definitely taken a leap and is doing well, he's averaging over 7 assists per game so far, you don't want to rely on just one guard to be the only guy on the court that can deliver the ball to his teammates and other scorers. Because you know Gary Trent's not going to do a whole lot of playmaking, OG Anunoby still is working on his scoring before he can even think about working on his playmaking. Even though Kem Birch and Precious Achiuwa are both solid playmakers at the center position in respect to other centers, you also don't really want to rely on them to be the secondary playmaker on the court. And again, with Pascal Siakam coming back, that will offer some help to Fred VanVleet, but that doesn't change the fact that Scottie Barnes' presence has been huge in this offense so far. One thing I really love about this Raptors team is that they know that if they're going to want to be good offensively, they're going to have to go out and score in transition because they understand what their weaknesses are. And so because of that, with the roster that they've built, they're allowing pretty much anyone who grabs the defensive rebound to immediately just take it up the court. And this is one area where Scottie Barnes is just really awesome. He has a really high IQ, he's able to push the ball up the floor with ease. I know there have been some Giannis comparisons made because he can cover the whole span of the court in about 3 to 4 dribbles, which again, just absurd. But the most important thing is that Scottie Barnes never seems rushed. He always knows where his teammates are. He always knows, he seems to know the right play to make. And his passing is just so good for someone of his size and his build. And it's not always just him making the assist or, making the pass that leads to the score, but even just his passing to continue moving the offense, get the defense moving, passing the cutters, making skip passes. It's all just really good stuff. Alright, now I'm going to transition over to the return of Pascal Siakam because he offers some interesting, future ideas for this team. So season debut for Siakam, he ended with 15 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and a steal, and it wasn't anything too crazy. He only played 25 minutes, which obviously as he returns and gets stronger back into basketball shape, all those numbers will most likely go up. But again, it'll be interesting to see how Toronto, handles this shift, this change now that Siakam's back in the lineup, because I think it's fair to say that Pascal remains the best player on this roster. Maybe that changes in the future, at the end of this year, next year, I don't know. But as of now, Siakam is the best player. I think it might be safe to say he's their best scorer, at least most consistent scorer. I know I mentioned earlier that Scottie Barnes' points per game will probably go down. I think I'd also expect OG Anunoby's points per game to go down, although it's not as much, maybe just slightly. But overall, I'm very interested to see if Siakam is able to take that leap to become, the guy on this roster, especially for late game scenarios where the Raptors need a clutch bucket in the half court, because again, that's just been the huge struggle for this team, even in recent years. Because as of now, when you look at this Raptors team, they're 6-4, I believe, 6-5, my bad. So they're 6-5, they've lost some close games, they've won some close games. I think this is a safe guess about where this team will finish. I think they'll be an above 500 team just based off of what they've done so far, meaning that they'll probably be a back half playoff seed. They're going to be a tough out come playoff time, again, just because that defense is so strong. They're going to be able to be a pest to whichever team they go up against. But if they want to be a true contender, they're going to need someone that they can rely on to be a late game scorer, and I'm just not quite sold on Pascal Siakam being that guy yet. Not to say that he can't be that guy ever, but again, we're going to have to wait and see. But outside of all of that, I think that's enough recap on the Raptors season so far. Game with Brooklyn, they're in a really good spot. Now, if I may make a few suggestions about things I'd like to see change for the roster, I'll just dish them out quick. First issue is, what's up with Goran Dragic? He's only played in 4 games. He made it pretty clear that Toronto's not really a destination he wants to be in, so when is the trade gonna go down? That's really my only question here. Because if I may present an option for you guys, just maybe what if Goran Dragic were to be sent to the Clippers in a trade, for example? I think he'd be a great fit to, just replace some of those Eric Bledsoe minutes, get some offense in there, get some playmaking on that Clippers roster, help them out at the guard position where they are, looking a little slim right now. And then point number 2, if, just assuming Dragic gets dealt at some point, that will also just open up more minutes for Malachi Flynn, because he should have more minutes already, but for some reason he doesn't. Nick Nurse has this weird thing where he's kind of judgmental about his players when they get asked or when he gets asked about them. And for some reason, Malachi Flynn is just sitting in that doghouse right now. And even though he's played well in his appearances so far, I just, get the man some more minutes. That's everything for now. Again, if you really do enjoy the game of basketball, you have to check out some of these Raptors games. I mean, what they're doing right now might just be a prelude for them actually breaking the NBA in the future, which, if that does actually end up happening, would be pretty crazy. And again, just fun to watch because the NBA remains super entertaining to start the year, and the Raptors are just feeding into that. And if you've made it to this point in the video, then congratulations, you're a real one. Now, if you enjoyed this video, maybe think about hitting the subscribe button. Should be somewhere in this general direction. Or if you're not sure yet, maybe check out another video which should be in this general direction. Either way, thank you for watching.